Hi, welcome to HeKate's Crossing. I wanted to finally get round to doing Lisa Papez, her tarot FAQ, frequently asked questions. So I thought I'd finally get down to actually doing that. So I printed them off just so I could read them. Okay, the first thing talks about deck preferences. What are your thoughts on illustrated minors? So illustrated minors, we're talking about like the Rider-Waite-Smith. This is the Waterfall Tarot, just to sort of show you quickly. So you got your illustrated minors here, which I think are absolutely, just put in the major arcana there. But just so you can sort of see, illustrated minors means that they sort of have a bit of a scenery here, compared to what I would call a the pips, like the Tarot de Marseille. Did I pick up any other pip decks? I do have some others, of course, like the that's what I was going to pick up, the Tarot Familiar. Let me just grab it. So we have the Tarot Familiar and decks like that as well. So those are the three. You sort of got your illustrated minors, you got your Tarot de Marseille type decks, and you have the, I should have grabbed my Thoth as well. I've got the mini, and then you've got like something like the Tarot Familiar. Let me just grab the Thoth as well. Let me grab. So this is your four type. Really, I would say, if you really wanted to sort of talking about the difference between scenic and pips, non-scenic minors and the pips, I think you'd really think about these. You'd think about these decks that are very similar with the they follow a Rider-Waite-Smith or a Thoth system or something like that, and they actually have pips like this. So your wands and your pentacles and your cups and things like that. Okay, then you've got the Thoth, of course, and Thoth-like decks that have that sort of non-scenic, all the pips, should I say? And then you've got like the Tarot Marseille, Tarot de Marseille, or Ancient Italian, or Spanish Tarot, something like that that comes in with that sort of deck. So that, to me, I don't mind either way. To me, it's all about the deck. It's all about the artwork with the majors. I don't mind either way. So you can see that I have a selection of both types of decks. Okay, so how do you feel about keywords on decks? I actually don't mind keywords on decks. I actually have, just seeing if I've collected anything here. Well, my first deck I had was the Native American Tarot, and this has like the Six of Shields has Giveaway Dance, then the Nine of Shields has Thunderbird, Ten of Blades has Ruin, Nine of Blades has Polygamy, Eight of Blades has Captive. So yeah, I don't think keywords has ever really bothered me. And then you've got like the Angel Tarot, Radley Valentine's Angel Tarot, and all his type of decks like that. that he has. There's an animal tarot, and there's a few other decks anyway. And they actually have full sentences, and they actually don't bother me at all. I actually find them really good starting points, really good if you just want to do a really quick message without thinking too much about it. It just really depends on what you want. I actually don't mind keywords on decks. Okay, borders. Well, borders don't bother me at all. I think some artwork needs the borders. If I don't like a border on a deck, I don't buy it. But I actually quite like borders. I mean, I like some decks without borders, but some decks with borders are all good to me. What makes you decide? I don't modify decks. Well, actually, all my decks are as is. I don't modify any of them. And what kind of cardstock is my favourite? Well, to be honest, because I am quite gentle with my decks, I'm not too worried about cardstock overall. I just seem to find it's sort of got a plasticky feel to it. I was a bit disappointed when I first got it, but actually since the more I've used it, the more I like it. I don't think I have any preference with cardstock. I think that definitely. Okay, buying and backing decks. Where do you go to look for new decks you may want to buy? Well, that's in all sorts of places. I mean, you're looking at Etsy. If you're looking at an indie deck, could be you're looking at Book Depository. For me, with being in New Zealand, it's just nice and easy. Could be the artist or creator's website or blog or something like that, maybe their own store. Game Crafter, Make Playing Cards are all places that I've brought from. I actually haven't brought from Printer Studio yet, even though there's a couple of decks I wouldn't mind on there. What has been your best and worst kicks? Well, I haven't had any bad Kickstarter decks really. The best one, I think, really is, of course, Teo's Echoes of Nature and his... I'll just grab the Echoes of Nature. Let me grab my Kickstarters. Echoes of Nature, where are you? Should have had a mind blank then. They're not Kickstarter, so straight off Etsy, pre-orders, just checking. Okay, my basic Kickstarters really have been Tarot Oracles, Waterfall Tarot. My first one was his Echoes of Nature, and that was an excellent experience, really. I think the only one that I was slightly disappointed, it was quite an expensive deck even in New Zealand, was the price of, well, not the price, but just the whole, because it is quite sacred. I just think the experience of it not being boxed, I don't know, there was just some things to it. I think it could have been done better, but I can understand. This is the Maori deity one. It is very sacred. It's not something that I use all the time. It is quite cool for exploration. I mean, that was beautiful. That's something sacred, really. That was sort of a really nice thing. I feel like it could have been come in a box, maybe, or I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, of course, Mandy Pedersen's Uncover Your Past Lives. This was another Kickstarter, and excellent service. I mean, excellent stock, excellent cards, beautifully boxed. Yeah, I haven't really had any bad experiences with Kickstarter as yet. I've still got a few still coming, so we'll see. How do you decide what decks you want to buy or back? Well, to me it's about the artwork, if it's a Kickstarter, what's being offered maybe, for what price. I have to think about shipping, of course, so prices can be things, but it's all about the artwork for me. You know, will it go in my, is it something a little different, something unique? For me, when I buy a deck, like for me, I mean, I just use different types of decks, really, for different things. Let me just put some of these back, just so I can just make a bit of room here. I mean, when I buy a deck, it is really just about the artwork. You know, does the artwork inspire me? Is it something a wee bit different, like the Primordial Tarot, which I'm really enjoying? I'm still exploring that. Is it something that's sort of reminiscent of my past, like the Starman Tarot? Does the artwork appeal? Is it something that I'll use, like the Ancient Italian? Is it something that feels very sacred, like the Mori Tattoo? You know, Roxana Paul, her artwork and stuff is absolutely stunning. Does it sort of fit with what I want, like the Romantic Tarot? Does it sort of add to my collection? Just, you know, it's not another one that's the same. It could be something a little bit different, a little bit unique, like the Japanese, vintage Japanese tarot. You know, so there are decks that just seem to sort of really appeal. They just seem to add to my collection in some way. They are just beautifully done. So yeah, I don't think there's any particular style or anything. You can see my decks are all quite different, quite unique. They offer something different. It's not same. Yeah, I just think different decks offer different stories to the reading. So how much is too much to spend on a deck? Well, for me, I think a lot of it is when I think about, is the deck too much to spend? Is it something that I won't use? Is it something that I feel is just not going to add to my collection in some way? I don't have any deck here that I regret buying in regards to that thing. But, I mean, there are some amazing decks out there, and I have to think, will it add to my collection? I think that's when I become, is it going to be too much to spend? Do you have deal breaker cards? Cards that have to feel right for you to pull the trigger on a deck? Not in particular. I think every deck is different depending on what it offers. What does the tarot deck actually offer to my collection is more than anything. So no, I don't feel like there's any deal breaker cards in that self. Okay, reading tarot for self. Do you have any daily tarot practice? Most days I think I pull a few cards, something for me to reflect on. You know, what am I working with, like the Primordial Tarot. It might be that I just pull sort of one card for reflection. I might pull 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards, 1 card from each suit. It just depends on my mood and what I'm doing. Other things I might do for my in my practice might be that I might just choose a card or choose a deck and actually just go through and just as I'm pulling the cards, just say the first things that come into mind about that card. So that's a good way for me to keep on learning about the deck, just going through and going, okay, what does this mean, what does this mean, what does this mean, then do 2 card, 3 card, 4 card, 5 card spread. So yeah, that's what I do. What is your shuffle style? What is your go-to shuffle style? Well, mainly for me, I shuffle all my decks like this, no matter what size. Oops, what we get? 5 of Cups flew out. Some things we cannot control. Yeah, and there's some things that we can look at. Maybe we're looking at the... So yeah, I just feel like all my decks I always shuffle like this. No matter what size, what style. Like even round decks. Now that I've got a few round decks. So yeah, they always sort of shuffle the same sort of way. You know, it's my shuffle. How do I choose what deck I'm going to work with? I think it's just about mood, really. Mood, question, how I feel. All that stuff will come into play. Do you purchase professional readings for yourself? I have occasionally. I'm very fussy about who I let read for me or that sort of stuff. Yeah. Do you use tarot for anything other than divination? Yeah, I use it for learning, self-development, definitely for meditation, reflection, anything like that. I mean, some of the decks are amazing just to sort of feel like, it's like the coffee tarot. Okay, so you're shuffling, and for me, this is a really good meditation deck because it's so everyday sort of scenery. You're not looking at things that could be out of the everyday ordinary. So, like you're choosing a card, and here you've got in the office someone with some donuts and a coffee. That to me is sort of like could be an everyday event for someone who works in an office or something like that. So it really is a really good meditation because you can visualize what actually could happen in a daily thing. So I think these are like really good for meditation or reflection. So yeah. Okay, reading for clients. How did you know when you were ready to read for clients? Well, I had practiced quite a lot on myself and reading for family and or for friends mainly, reading for friends. And what happened was I was, of course, using the Native American Tarot with a few different oracle decks and things. I actually had the crystal... I actually had the original Crystal Alley cards as well. So I was using these in readings for friends and things. And when I had a friend who would keep coming back constantly, it was sort of like, hey, you know, I don't mind doing a reading for you, but you're asking for every little single thing. I think it's time I sort of start charging, even if it's for a cup of coffee. So I started to be where she'd take me out for a coffee and stuff like that for a reading. And then she had some friends who wanted a reading, and it just sort of built from there. I think it was just the fact that I'd been reading for a couple of, for a year or two on my own. I'd been studying, I'd been learning, and it just sort of felt right to sort of start charging, and I sort of just felt right to sort of start charging, not too much, but enough to pay for petrol. If you're going to someone's house, I would do like a tarot party where you'd have like 4 or 5 people and do, you know, a 20-minute reading for each person. So just sort of, I think I just felt in myself when I was ready. It just sort of felt people were coming to me. It was when friends were saying, and like, it wasn't just like, oh, can I practice on you or anything like that. People were saying, hey, look, I really want to know what's going on. Can you give me a reading? Do you do anything special to set up for a client reading or for yourself? Okay, reading for myself, normally like with the cards, I would get a candle, incense lit, crystals on my table, get everything so that I'm calm and relaxed. When I was reading in a shop where I just had a back room, or the healing centre, definitely quite a bit of prep and that was done because we wanted to make the space really nice for the client. When I was reading at markets and things like that, it was just the table, maybe the tea light, a couple of big crystals, and I was in a good space where I could do that. When I'm reading for online, I always make sure my space is calm, relaxed. I've got the incense going, tea light. Everything again is just set up really nicely. If I'm doing my lives, I'm making sure my space is all prepared beforehand and I'm calm and relaxed. And then it's just doing the readings as such. Do you let your client handle your cards? Do you shuffle and ask them to draw and cut, have them shuffle, or do you do it all? To me, that's really personal. It just depends on the client you're reading for, the space you're in. Sometimes I would shuffle the cards and fan the cards out and ask the client to choose from there. Would be a good way of doing it. Sometimes I would say to a client, can you just cut the cards? Could you just cut the cards and put them back? It just depends. I don't really like people shuffling because some people can be a bit harsh with shuffling. It depends on the person, whether I know whether they're gentle with my cards or not. Most of the times I will shuffle and I'll just let the client choose from there. Now that I'm sort of been reading online, of course, I will, of course, shuffle and choose the cards. Okay. Are there any questions you would refuse to answer for a client? Generally, I'm not very good on, I really don't like questions when it comes to legalities or medical issues. You know, they want to do a diagnostic in some way, or they want to do like legalities. You know, will I end up in jail or something like that, or will he get off scot-free or stuff like that. Legality stuff can be a bit tricky because it depends on so many factors and stuff going on. I just need to be really careful about those sort of things because we can be, you know, if things don't quite go according to plan, could get yourself into a little bit of trouble. The other thing that I sort of struggle a little bit with is when somebody wants to do readings about another couple that has no bearing really on them. They're just being nosy. Celebrity readings I definitely don't do. Not something that I'm sort of really into. Really, when I'm talking about things that just seem a bit nosy, I mean, I don't need to know what's happening with my neighbours or what's happening with such and such, unless it actually personally affects me. It's like, what do I need to know so I can help them in some way? What do I need to know in regards to such and such situation? Definitely is fine, but it's just been really cool. Okay, do you have any advice for people who want to start reading professionally? there's a lot of things to think about, really. If you're just going to, if you want to start reading professionally, make sure that you're confident with the spread that you're using, you're confident with the deck that you have in your hands, you're confident with the spreads that you actually want to use with this deck, so you want to know that you can actually read quite comfortably with, and how long is it actually going to take. You know, how much information can you actually pull out of the cards? You know, is this going to be a 5-minute reading, a 10-minute reading, a 15, 20-minute? How much are you going to charge for that time? Is it reasonable for the amount of experience that you actually have? All those things have got to come into play when you're thinking about starting to read for others. How are you going to set up your space when you're reading for others? Do you have enough room for reading for others? Are you going to include oracle decks or Lenormand, or, you know, do you read, like for me, I read Kipper cards, Lenormand, you know, all those decks I, you know, use, but I won't use something that I can't read with. So if I'm reading for a paid client, you're not going to read a deck that, you're not going to use a deck that you cannot read with. Oops, sorry, dropped bags and things. So I think it's all about what decks work for the client, what decks work for you, what layouts are you going to do, how much are you going to charge. Do you have a cloth to put your cards on, something that you have, do you have a tarot bag on the go that you can take your decks with you? Do you need anything else for preparation? Can you read just on the fly? That could be another thing. Sometimes people can say, you know, I want to read it, I'd like a reading from you, how much? And you say $10, $20 or whatever. Are you actually going to provide the service that you say that you're doing? I mean, that's a big thing. How are you going to read? You know, are you reading face to face? Are you reading online? Emails, DM, video chats, you know, video lives, a straight video for the client. Maybe you're doing a video chat like Facebook or Skype or something like that. It's all about, so those are the things I think you have to really think about when you're reading for a client. Is your service you're offering, how much, you know, what your spreads are you comfortable doing that? Can you, you know, what other decks are you using in the reading? All those things come into play, I think, for when you're wanting to read for other people. So that's it really, I think, from the questions from Lisa. Deck preferences, buying and backing decks, recommending, reading tarot for self, and reading for clients. So yeah, that's it from me. Don't forget to check the link below, check the links on my channel, like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you know when the next video will be uploaded. Take care and blessed be.